I'm not a fancy founder that I was born and I was like, bachpan mein ki meko to business hi karna hai. No, I was brought up in a way where you have to come first in class, you have to go to a good college, you have to get a great job that pays you well.
Hi everyone, welcome to episode 6 of Career Goals. On today's episode, we have Romita Mazumdar with us. She's the founder of an amazing skincare brand, Foxtail, and she's also on the very prestigious Forbes 30 under 30 list as well. And we're very excited for the conversation that is lined up. So we'll be talking about her career pivot from being an investment banker to moving into the skincare ecosystem. Also diving deep into her business, so understanding about new product launches, about retention and influencer marketing, and then also getting to know Romita as a founder. So on that note, welcome Romita. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks a lot, Nitya, and thanks a lot for such kind words. Uh, I think Fox has given a lot to me, but I think all the success is attributable to what the brand is and the people behind it. And I can tell you there are more than 150 people behind the brand.
Amazing. Romita, like I already mentioned, you had this insane move, right? From like being in this finance sector to going into skincare, right? So how, when, why, how did that happen? Why skincare? Why not anything else?
I wanted to create a 1,000 crore consumer brand in India with 20% EBITDA. So I needed a category that allows you to do that, right? And skincare is a beautiful category. It's growing 20% year on year. It's a category where currently the women who were below 20 now have moved to their early 20s, late 20s, early 30s, and they want to move out of the brands that were handed them over, right? Like we have grown up to the Ponds and Niveas of the world, and there's nothing wrong with the product, but our knowledge have expanded, right? Today we treat skin as a health, as an organ. We don't just think of skin as just one thing to put when we move out, right? SPF was not a concept 10 years back. Now it has become a concept. So I could see a lot of tailwinds in this category. And second, and I strongly believe this, I have been an investor before, that is an when you start a business, right, your arbitrage can be two. Either you are extremely experienced in the category, which can come from, me being a formulator myself, or me having worked in maybe one of the big consumer brands in the category, which I'm not. I was an investor, I was an investment banker. I used to work with 10, 15 companies at a given point of time. So I knew a little or more of a lot, but not extremely deep knowledge from a business perspective. मतलब मैंने business नहीं किया था कभी किसी इसमें. And my parents are lawyers. So I come from a very service mindset. I don't come from a industrialist and business mindset family, right? But the second arbitrage a founder can have, which I value more deeply, is that she's a power user of the category. हम हिंदी में एक वर्ड यूज करते हैं, कस्टमर का नस पकड़ना, राइट? सो अनलेस यू आर अ कस्टमर हु रियली केयर्स अबाउट द प्रोडक्ट, हाउ कैन यू क्रिएट द बेस्ट प्रोडक्ट, राइट? And skincare was the category where I really, really cared about what I was putting in my face, right? So that's how skincare as a category for me to build a consumer business fit very well, both in terms of the numbers that I wanted to achieve and where I think I could actually come and create honest, true products. Because unless I create honest, true products, I'm really not going to be able to scale up because users are not going to come back. So I think that was that was really the initial bit of starting. But I think there's a longer story. So June 2020, July 2020, I spent 4 months talking to more than 3,000 women across India. Like I used to go and stand outside malls and be like, ma'am, auntie, didi, excuse me, can you just talk? And they used to be like, who's this random person? Across 10 cities in India, I've gone to Ahmedabad, I've gone to, Indore, Jaipur, Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai, and all of these. I would just go and talk outside airports, etc. I can't tell you, Nitya, the more I spoke, like from 100 to 300 to 3,000, I think what really stood out to me is self-care as a concept, right? Like in India, self-care is treated as a privilege, right? Like, why does self-care have to be a privilege? Why can't it be a right? And for it to be a right, I'm not going to go and do a morcha and make it a right. I'm going to make skincare so accessible and so minimalist in nature, right? That if I'm giving you one product, even that gives you results equivalent to 3 products or what exactly you're searching for. I'm solving for your confidence. I'm solving for your time. I'm solving for your, affordability. It has to be at the right price point. The sensorials have to be right. Even if it's those 30 seconds you're applying it, can I make you feel good about yourself, right? And initially we used to get a lot of conversation around why do you have fragrance and etc. And we take allergen-free fragrance, which are only like 15 fragrances in the world. We've custom built it. They're completely allergen-free. But
Mm.
I used to put my foot down. I'm like, I'll do allergen-free. I will do multiple tasting. It took me 6 months to find like one fragrance. And
Mm.
I'm good. But for me, that sensorial is very important. When you're using it, you need to feel not like a gym. Like, हाँ, मेरे को run करना है, मेरे को body को pain देना है, and I'm going to sleep. I want you to feel good because that's your self-care moment, right? I need you to feel refreshed. So I think it was a lot of what Foxtail does is an amalgamation of a lot of these things. So yeah, that's why skincare happened, because both there's a business angle to it, there's a my confidence angle to it, where I thought I could do a good job and an honest job, and of course the most important part is what consumers really wanted, and
Mhm.
if she wanted it, I wanted to be able to give it. So I think it was that. Yeah.
So self-care, I think, was a big takeaway you got from the 3,000 odd women you interviewed, I guess, right?
Yeah, like self-care, the concept was like self-care ki baat, skincare, people thought about skincare, but a lot
Mm.
of women either couldn't afford it or didn't have the
Mm.
time for it, right?
Right.
And so it's not like today she doesn't appreciate skin as an organ or skincare important. She used to relate. A lot of women actually have confidence issues because of some skin health
Yeah.
issues, right? Whether it's
Mm.
pigmentation, whether it's dark circles, whether
Mm.
it's anything else, right? And but they again didn't know, either have access to it, what is right for them, what is not right for them, or they were spending a lot of money and not getting the right result. So I think it was being able to provide result first products
Mm.
that give you an experience that provides self-care, because I can't today go and change India. I suddenly can't change families and make self-care, and in the process enable them to find those 2 minutes for themselves.
Mm.
Because if you're getting results in something, we as women optimize our time. We are multitaskers, right?
Yeah.
So अगर हमको पता है कि 2 मिनट देने से आधे घंटे का रिजल्ट आ जाता है, you will take that 2 minute route.
Yeah.
And my job is to give you the best product. My job is to give you at the minimal price possible. And my job is to give you a good experience. So you will see
Yeah.
we focus a lot on packaging. We
Mm.
will never give you something with a paper wrap packaging. It's a higher costing for me, but I have always been like, नहीं मेरे को paper नहीं चिपकाना है. I need you to feel like, it makes a huge difference whether a paper is lapped or it's a on
It's
print
an
thing, right?
entire experience after all, no?
Yeah,
It's when you
yeah,
receive it in your hand,
yeah,
the emotion that you feel once you open this new product and start using it,
yeah.
it's something else altogether, I think.
Yeah. So even if you look at e-com boxes, there are a lot of women drawn in it of
Mm.
different styles and tech faces and different
Mm.
structures, everything. The reason being, we want you to feel we are you from the moment you feel it, get it, right? And we don't are today expecting you to spend 15 minutes. We want to integrate in your life without causing pain in your life,
Mm.
and want you to give the best.
You mentioned that you came from a family of lawyers and there
Yeah.
was no, like a business mindset that you
Yeah.
came from. So, how business, right? Like, did you ever think that maybe you'll just work at a big beauty brand, or did you start to like aspire at some point, right? That I want to be a founder of a startup?
See, I always say this to my investor meetings also. I'm not a fancy founder that I was born and I was like, bachpan mein ke meko to business hi karna hai. No, I was brought up in a way where you have to come first in class, you have to go to a good college, you have to get a great job that pays you well, because whatever your parents are earning, kharch ho jata hai, because we are like, we don't sit on family money, or we don't have that kind of recurring revenues. Like you work, you earn, and you spend kind of thing, and you save whatever you can. So it was always about, you want a good lifestyle, you have to pay for it, so you have to get a job that's good enough. So I think everything in my life has happened because of the value system. I think the value system has always been work extremely hard, and if you work hard you will get what you desire to be. So don't worry about the results so much as work. This But it wasn't necessarily I woke up and like, I am going to machao as a founder. I in fact had a long time believing that I can do a good job as a founder.
Hmm.
But I think, but I defined my KPIs, right? Like, this is my right to win as an entrepreneur, this will be the right to win for Foxtail. I defined those very early. But
Hmm.
I think for me it was simply because no one else was doing what I thought was pure honest effort to build a great product
Hmm.
and build a brand users can be proud of. I think that gave me a reason to start something of my own. Yeah.
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 The beauty space in general, I feel like, is so cluttered and
Yeah.
crowded, though, right? There's so many old brands, like you mentioned, and then there are many new ones that are up and coming as well. So, at any point, did that intimidate you? That will there be demand for my brand? How am I going to meet expectations?
So in fact, when I started, I myself have spoken to 108 skincare brands when I was an investor, right? In a period of 6 months. That's how many companies we had evaluated.
Hmm.
And what had ended up happening is after every conversation, we would be like, it's a treadmill business. Like someone's launching green apple, then everyone launches it. And we
Hmm.
would meet these people, founders, and they would be like, our manufacturing life cycle is 1 month and we know what's trending and we are able to manufacture the product and introduce it in the market. So I knew that, and with Nykaa and Amazon, it's very easy to today launch a brand, right?
Hmm.
The reality of skincare, and now I know a lot more than what I knew, is manufacturers give you the formulation.
Hmm.
In 10, 15 days, you say, okay, no, okay, do this, do that. They fix it and then they start production.
Hmm.
So you don't work on the formulation. You take a base and then you change things in that on the basis of whatever, right? If you want
Ah.
to add green apple smell, you want to have a upton smell, whatever feel and texture.
Hmm.
So it is a very fragmented market where the barrier to manufacture is very low and the barrier to sell is also very low, because you
Yeah.
have manufacturers who are doing the job of creating the products, then you have Amazon Nykaa who is doing the job of launching the brand, right?
Yeah.
Which is great. Honestly, it's great for the business in general. But that meant what that meant, and I'll tell you in a business way, that when I started looking at all the numbers, the retention was very low. So it was like
Hmm.
every time a brand would acquire a user, but the user would never come back. Now, from a user mindset, she
Hmm.
reached a point where she understood, given the Instagram world, YouTube world, she's very educated about what she
Hmm.
needs in her skin. She has a problem in mind, right? She will think pigmentation is my problem, uneven skin tone is my problem, pigmented lips is my problem, whatever ABCD is my problem, and she's going to fetch a product. If it doesn't give her results, then she stops using it and she moves on. In fact,
Hmm.
I can bet if I ask you how many times you bought a product and not used it will be multiple, right? Like you buy
Hmm.
it, you use it, and the reason is not necessarily, oh, I hate the product. You just stop using it because the product is just not able to connect with you at some level and something else comes to you.
Yeah.
So when I started skincare, my biggest perception or what I knew of the industry very well, it's a very fragmented industry. There's a lot of people with a lot of money, doing a lot here. But hence, for me to do skincare only made sense if I had a gap in mind, right? So that's where talking to these 3,000 women was, I can't tell you, became a, till today, I owe everything to those conversations, right? And
Yeah.
when we talked, we realized that why the reason people don't come back to these products is results.
Hmm.
Men in India want results from products and they want results quickly. They don't want 4 5 weeks for results. You are using a product within 3 to 5 users, you want to see results.
Yeah.
And I said, if that's a problem I can solve, then I will find it harder to acquire user the first time. But once I acquire her, I will
Hmm.
not lose her. So, I spent
Yeah.
X rupees in acquiring you and
Hmm.
you spent X. Okay, I didn't make money, but every time you come back to me, I make money, right? Like,
Yeah.
because I've spent money in acquiring you. That's a business angle to it.
Great.
Uh, and honestly, retention means that I build loyalty. If you
Hmm.
are repeating with a brand, most likely you're going to talk about the brand. That's
Great.
stickiness. And so brand is built even without me doing TV ads, etc. Because there's
Hmm.
positive conversations around the brand.
Yeah.
And then the second problem was that, so that ये product like problem था, अब हम कैसे इसको solve, how do we solve it, right? So then I started interviewing people and I interviewed 52 people at that time. The
Hmm.
53rd person I met was retired. He was the global, he was the, he'd led R&D at Unilever and then Himalaya. He's the guy who, he's called the Fair and Lovely man. He was part of the team that invented Fair and Lovely and Himalaya and etc.
Hmm.
So he's a guy who's worked in skincare. He's seen the likes of Fair and Lovely Ponds, not seen, he's created it. He's a
Hmm.
scientist. He's an R&D PhD specialist, like a cosmetic specialist. And he agreed to come on board. And I asked him, is it possible to create products that work? And he said, yes, but I don't know how much time it will take and the money it will take. I
Hmm.
said, sir, it's just you and me. You set up the R&D team. And as long as it takes, as much as it costs, I'm ready to invest there. And whenever it is made, I take the responsibility of selling it.
What was it like getting him on board? Like, how did you convince him? How did you pitch your idea to him?
He was my first employee actually. And
Wow.
I remember he's very senior, right? Like if you go and like if I go to seminars with him with like where currently R&Ds of all these companies come, right? Big brands
Hmm.
like Unilever, P&G, to much smaller brands and everything. And people come to him and take pictures. Like he's a hero in that domain, right? And I didn't know that, of course. With time, I've gotten to know that even more. But uh, you know, uh, Funnily, Nitya, he was the first guy, So when I made a decision that I want to do business, and they're positive and not necessarily negative. Not everyone's like, hey, you're gonna do it, but everyone has that even positive. the right intention have concerns which can put you down, right?
Yeah.
My mother's first reaction was, you are not shrewd enough. How will you do a business? Okay, do it for a year, then you do an MBA. There was someone I used to work with actually, and he told me that, and that time I was just dating my current husband. Like, see, eventually you will marry him. He has the money. So yeah, you can take the risk. A guy couldn't have taken the risk, and a lot of people thought that, okay, do it for a year and a half. Worst case, what? You'll do an MBA and you've saved enough and all of that stuff, right? And ऐसा कोई save किया नहीं था. I have a very, like, I spend a lot. So मेरे पास ऐसा कोई savings नहीं था. And like I said, like, people think because I went to UCLA, I come from this fancy ass family. People don't realize my parents are just extremely good parents who went out of their way to send me to UCLA, right? They sold a house to send me to UCLA. So it's like, I don't come from family money or anything, right? So it was a risk, but it was either not recognized as a risk. It was like, oh, you're a girl, you will get married, he can support your lifestyle, so you can take the risk. Or it was like a nice thing, like my parents, right? You're not shrewd enough, you can't do business. And my parents are very service minded. So they are very like, ये सब क्यों करना है, तुमको नहीं पता कितना चक्कर पड़ता है, and all of that stuff, right? So I think all of this was happening, Dr. Ramesh, and it was a period of 6 months. And during this time, I was speaking to 3,000 women, right? Imagine standing outside airports, etc. I didn't even have a name to the brand, right? And so many 3,000 women is like close to like 2,000 hours of conversation or even more that I've had, right? And so many people would have said no to talk to me, like, who is this stranger and who is this random person? And so it wasn't like it wasn't a time where I was at my glam 101 phase. It was like really the time where I was like, everyone, like, where it felt like, like my life was resetting. I knew, and there were too many opinions around it. But I was very like, heads down, let me figure it out type of thing. Dr. Ramesh, and I'll tell you, was the first guy when I met him, and we spent 3-4 hours. And this is COVID, right? This is like just 2020 COVID had ended, second wave was about to start. So he's based out of Chennai. And we spent 3-4 hours. He's 63, his mother is 83. Mother made dosa, and we sat and we ate dosa.
Oh, wow.
And then Sir said something to me. Sir said, whether we work together or not, that was the first time we met, you will make a great CEO, and you trust me, in the next 10 years, you will be India's one of the top CEOs. And I don't know why he said that. I'm not saying I will make it or not make it, but coming from him, from a person, he was the first guy who made me feel like I deserve to be where I am, or I deserve to start this journey, and it's okay for me to start this journey, and that I will not fail. He was the first guy who was very positive about it. And so how was it hiring him? I think he hired me, very honestly. I think and I wanted to make him a partner, co-founder, and he said, his astrologer said, you can't be a partner because the business, so you make me an employee. He has ESOP in the company, and he didn't draw salary for a year. For the time, I didn't draw salary, he didn't draw salary. He said, it's your money, you pay the R&D lab, you constructed. We made a whole lab, we have our own lab, we have our own team of scientists. Paid for all of that. He said, you don't have to pay me. And so I honestly don't know, Nitya, whether how was it hiring him. I think I can only say he that I was a kid. I was genuinely very innocent. I was very hardworking. I still am. I was very like uh but मेरे को करना था, मेरे को ये पता था why I was doing it. I didn't know what I was doing. I knew, right? What was driving that kind of instinct at that time, I don't know. But that's why I said cheerleaders are so important. If nothing got to me, I was not going through a phase where I was like, oh, why is everyone being so negative? Everything I'm telling you is in hindsight. I was just cutting everything off. But him saying that positive thing had so much weight, had so much to do. And even now, I think his words, his cheerleading is the most critical, like, to me, right? And he is the godfather of Foxtail, and very honestly, I think of him very fatherly. And I still, like, he comes and I touch his feet because I don't feel any other way with him, right? He can be an employee and whatever, but so I don't know how it felt. I can tell you, this is really how I felt. Like, it was from an employee perspective. It was like someone who believed in what I was doing, and that became a setting stone for what would happen next.
I think it's such a great case of where like luck meets opportunity and talent, right? Because like of course you had so much potential in you, which he noticed, and that I think that you were able to meet him, able to have that conversation, him saying yes to you. I think all the things just aligned, and it just like
100%. Yeah, it's being at the right place at the right time. There's no reason for Dr. Ramesh and me to have met. Like, I interviewed the 49th guy, and he was from a very big company, and he was trying to tell me that we are poaching this guy, and I was like, who? And during the conversation, I got to know his name. Dr. Ramesh doesn't have a LinkedIn. And somehow Dr. Amit has an inactive LinkedIn. Like someone, then I found all his connects. I reached out to all of them.
Huh.
Then I found his student who refused to give me his number.
Hmm.
Then I somehow cajoled him into giving his number. Then I found his number. Then I figured out his address. Then I showed up at his house. Like I was such a stalker at the time. uh, so it's not, it's not that naturally in any circumstance, sir and I would have met. But yeah, we met through destiny, I guess.
But I think you made it happen also. I think it's of course you give some credit to destiny, but you went out of your way, made sure ऐसे की नहीं वैसे नहीं, but like you just had to do it. So
I'm sure as an entrepreneur, you're doing the same thing. By hook or crook, we have to get things done. Getting things done is critical. The route becomes not critical.
doesn't matter as much, yeah.
Yeah. चाय पढ़ना पड़े, भीख मांगना पड़े, जो करना पड़े. You
कुछ
should
भी
get
करके.
things done. हाँ, करना है बस.
I mean, see, I can already see that you have this amazing cheerleader by your side that is there. But at any point, did you have like some kind of a role model? Because I know, so Tatcha, again, the global skincare brand, they have their founder, I believe she started from the finance space and again moved into skincare. So would you follow any stories like this, any other, role models that you would look up to?
Um, I don't know if I believe in the concept of role models. I think there's a lot to learn from everyone, and I am very absorbing that way. Like I will sit with you and I absorb without. It's not I'm thinking to what all to learn from Nitya, but I will absorb something.
Hmm.
Um, uh, in fact, I'm the kind of person if I stay too long with someone, I will also start talking like them. So I absorb a lot. But no, yeah, I don't think I have a role model. I think there are multiple things. See, I'm really I'm spiritual. I have my own spiritual path where being guru and everything. So I think a lot of I keep myself very my karmas and my process ability to manage stress, ability to compartmentalize things comes from listening, just following some things, like following basic things, right? Believing in someone higher than here. And I think at the end of the day, wanting to be a better human and not just a better entrepreneur or a better daughter or a better mother. I think my goal in life is to become a evolved human being. So I think I'm I don't believe in role models, but yeah, there is always this one thing that I relate to this one person, and if I will spend enough time, and I look up to them for that. So with Ayush, my husband, I look up to him for his hard work. My dad, it is his long-term vision that I look up to, right?
Yeah.
My team, I have team members who like there's someone called Anandita, like her creative ability, right? A structure SOPs. I'm not a good micromanager. I don't micromanage. She can put down things like A pehle karna hai, B pehle karna hai, C. So I think different people, different things. Ramesh sir and I are also very spiritually similar. So we talk a lot about how to work in context of being a good human, right? Like what does integrity mean to us? How do we want to build a team, etc. So I
You
think
spent all these many years in investment banking and then in venture, you're a venture capitalist as well. So I'm sure there's a lot of learnings you got out of that. Were you able to translate any of these learnings into your entrepreneurial journey?
mm, yes and no. There was a lot of learning I could translate. There was also a lot of unlearning that I had to do. Learnings that I could translate would just discipline. At banking and VC, I think teaches you a lot of a discipline.
Huh.
Be honesty to numbers. I think a lot of honesty in terms of corporate governance, in terms of saying to the numbers, etc. I think those were two things I clearly moved here that helped me a lot. I think unlearnings bahut the. Both banking and VC have a very bird's eye view of viewing it because that's the nature of the business, right? A VC will naturally have a lot of companies and they will have a thesis on the market and then the founder. Business is absolutely opposite. Business is bottoms up, right? You're taking the smallest problem and you're going down at the A. So I think that ability to pick one thing up and go really down versus look at several things at a bird's eye view. Execution, I think both banking and VC are not execution heavy, they are strategy heavy. You think, read a market, you build a thesis. It's very academic in nature that way, right? And like it's Excel and Word doc limited or presentation limited. This is a lot more execution. You have to physically execute, right? And everything. So I think a lot of unlearning there in that way from moving from strategy and conversations to hands-on execution. I think team building is something, again, because I was not very senior in banking VC, and very honestly, I don't think banking VCs teach it to you, because VC especially are very small teams. They are 7, 8, 9, 10 people. And plus, I was not this senior person that I was leading teams. But I generally think that generally you're not taught leadership in a VC and IB. I think today I have a 370 people team, right?
Mm,
50 in my headquarters and others across India, right? In
mm,
terms of on ground. So leadership is key. And when I say leadership is not about simply having a 370 people, understanding talent, scaling talent, helping people groom, being a part of their personal lives and their professional
mm,
lives, uh, motivating them, reprimanding them if required, right? That why is this not happening, right? So I think it's a combination of knowing what works for whom. Like A will work for you, B will not work for you, but for someone else it works very differently. And especially in a startup, you're not of the mindset, you don't have SOPs necessary, so it's a very people first way of working, right? In startups, consumer madness, PCPs are consume, we don't have the concept of IBs of consumers. Here I'm making products that people are using on their face, and so there's immediacy, right? A VC will put money, and after 5 years they know what's happening.
mm,
Yeah, pay, sell a product, 5 days it's delivered, and you will have a great experience or not a good experience. So
mm,
taking accountability of human reactions, right? Whether it's emotional reaction, physical reaction, etc. So I think a lot of unlearning. So I think it's a different ball game. I don't think it's the
yeah,
same. I think discipline is definitely something both IB and VC do a good job at teaching, which is rigor, right? Like my
mm,
IB class were 18, 19 hours. It was never a thing for me that, I can't work hard.
yeah,
Um, and second is honest corporate governance, like numbers, honesty, being true to numbers, etc. They're dealing with a lot of money, so they have to be very right with their number
yeah,
calculations and view on numbers, etc.
mm,
So, but I think other than that, everything else I have to unlearn. I think I have to make money at VCP. I don't make money because I wasn't drawing salary. As a founder, you are not making money the same way. So I had to reset my lifestyle. So I think
yeah,
there's a lot of unlearning otherwise involved. But
yeah.
yeah.
A huge shift, huh? From corporate to
Oh
the
yeah,
startup. Yeah.
yeah, not the same at all. No.
Awesome. So, I mean, now I think we've, I think, covered pretty well how you've moved, right? This huge transition that you did. I do want to talk a little bit about your business as well and like different aspects of it. So, something that I personally love is stories and like storytelling, and I know that a lot of people in general and customers also uh, do resonate a lot with that. And I do think that it's very central to your brand as well. So, I mean, tell me like how important these stories are, right? Like I know even on your Instagram page, for example, like you have different content going out where you're trying to like engage the community with telling your employee stories. You want customers to share their stories. So what's the value of these stories, to you, to your business, to customers as well?
A lot. I think, like I said, right, we started with the stories of 3,000 women. So if you actually look at my conversation, and if you're ever in Bombay, you should come to office, we've created a Bible out of those conversations. And
Oh,
it's
wow.
a straight book, right? And those conversations are not, acha, aap kya product use karte, kya nahi. These are conversations. Okay, when did you start skincare? What
Mm,
does it mean? There are conversations about how women have shared that, when they move cities, what has that meant for them emotionally? What has that caused? What kind of stress it has caused?
mm,
How has it translated into their skin?
mm,
How much time do they spend cooking, and how their children's schedule has a huge impact on what they are doing, etc., etc., etc. So I think stories is where we understand what our users need.
mm,
See, it's very easy to say that users need results, right? But today, let's say I make a product on rosacea. Okay, rosacea is a problem, but not a lot of people understand it.
mm,
Today, maybe I create a great product for dark circles, but it requires you to massage your eyes for 20 minutes every day. Yeah, India mein nahi hai, because we are living in a, we have time constraints. We have we are mothers, daughters, wives, working women, a lot of roles and hats that we are playing. So I think stories forms the basis of us getting to know the consumer. Unless I know story is something we hold very sacrosanct. We love hearing stories, we love sharing stories, we love telling stories. And I think Foxtail, actually, the name, I'll tell you, that's how I'll tell you the name. So I did all of these research, and I was doing all of this, and I was like, I need a name, something to stick to and feel like what I'm building, right?
mm,
And then I was in Chikmagalur in South India, it's near Bangalore, and there's this place where there are these trees called foxtail, like it's like coconut trees, so Foxtai. And the guy was giving us a tour there, and he said that this is called foxtail, and it's a useless plant. And I said, and you could see it all through the drive of Bangalore to this, and that stuck with me. And after the tour of the coffee plantation, I started googling it. It is useless because the seeds are inedible. You can't use the leaves, but they have the strongest roots in the plant kingdom, one of the strongest. Hold the soil together for coffee, and that reminded me of my mother, because I feel like my father has gotten this accolade of being a senior lawyer. I have gone on to become whatever, and my brother has gone on to do whatever. But my mother is the real unsung hero, because she's the one who's held the fort together for all of us to thrive. And I think it's true of our housewives. They don't get any societal accolade or gold medal or accomplishment, but they hold and while they may be seemingly professionally useless, they are the reason that everyone else is thriving around them. And but that time it was FOXTAIL. And then I was like, fox is negative because we think of it as a sly animal, etc. And started reading about fox, and fox is a competitive animal, but fox is the best mother in the animal kingdom, the most nurturing, which reminded me, which made me feel like me, right? I've always been asked that you're in male dominated jobs, you work so hard, do you want to marry? Do you want to have kids? It's almost like a smart woman can't be pretty, a pretty woman can't be smart. It's an age old thing that still goes on. Women are constantly put into buckets. And I think that for me was Fox was beautiful, right? She's not a Sati Savitri. She knows to kill and eat, but she also knows to take care of her family. And I think that to me was beautiful, right? That she has layers to herself. And TAIL to TAL, which is relevant to us, is that, I was speaking to so many women, and some days I would be very frustrated, to be honest. And I would come, and I met my fiance for dinner, and I was like, you talk to women in 15 minutes, you know everything about their life when you talk to them about their skin. It's almost like every skin has its own story. And that became the tagline, and we changed TAIL to TALE. So, so storytelling is the foundation of who we are, right? It's what we know best. It's what we do. Is we learn from the stories we hear, and every product that we give back, if you see the packaging, there's a story on the side of one woman. Every product is dedicated to a particular personality.
Like even on one part of your website, which I thought was so cool, I think on some of the product pages, there was this like a product journey chart, which was so interesting. It shows, right, like where you started, like the different iterations you made, and then how you got to the end, which I thought was so interesting and so transparent, which I don't see that in the market otherwise. So I mean, what drives you, right, to like how did you even come up with this idea to have this kind of a chart on your website?
It's making the user see. We learn from the user. Even today I talk to 8,000 users or more before I start working on a product. So it's not simply that I'm sitting here and I'm deciding what product to make. I'll go talk to my users, understand what else can I do for her, then take that idea to my R&D team. Then we work on the product, then we test on various users. When I say test, we send it to them, we take their consent, send it to them. They tell us whether they like it or not, what changes they want, basis that we reiterate and not. So user is a very central part of our story, right? Or of our journey of actually getting an idea to actually launching a product, right? So I think the idea was that if she's part of the journey, why should we hide the journey from her? She should know the journey. Like there are parts of different parts of the journey. So we just now that the intention was to give her what she was already a part of or articulate it. So it was just came from there.
That's amazing. And there's also like a ingredient glossary that I saw on the website, which again, it's amazing. Like I think you put like the source of the ingredient and then where that ingredient and which product it's used. And nowhere, I don't think I've seen that on any website possible. So that's like truly commendable. I'm sure like the customers will actually like notice that and appreciate that as well.
Thank you. So too.
And I mean, like, just because you were mentioning also, right, like how you go about your choosing the next product that you want to work on. So this is something I've always wondered with beauty brands in general. It's like, how do you choose that? You could create a new sunscreen tomorrow, or you could do like a moisturizer or a toner. It's like, what is the process of choosing a product, and then like how do you reverse engineer it with, I need to create a campaign around this, the product formulation, logistical, all of that.
So it starts with the user. See, on any particular day in my team, we are talking to come close to 100 to 200 users on a daily basis.
Wow.
So any idea really comes from, we want to solve real problems. Want to solve problems in India that people are facing and women are facing in commonality, right? So today I can't make a product, and you will be surprised that a problem that you think you are facing, so many women in India would be facing, right?
Hmm.
So we go to her, we understand the problem, right? Like for example, we had two sunscreens. One was a dewy, one was a
Hmm.
matte. And one of the things that we realized when we were talking to her, that she was like, sunscreen ke baad foundation lagana padta hai, but most women in India don't know how to apply a foundation.
Hmm.
I don't know how to apply a foundation. I will always apply it and not blend it properly, right?
Huh.
So makeup has become, for a lot of women, it's, for work they want to blend it and they use it.
Hmm.
Uh, but for work they use sunscreen and they will put something, but it is a more of an event based thing. You're having an event and you will put that kind of time. So it's a lack of time, it's a lack of knowing how to do it, etc. So they're like, if there can be a sunscreen which can also blur, right, or create a more even skin tone, which can work long term, which is working on your skin tone in the long term, provide sunscreen protection today, but also an immediate blurring effect. And that's how we got the idea of the Starlet, which is our anhydrous sunscreen.
Hmm.
The second thing was, the moment you apply foundation, if you are sweating when you're going to work, you can't apply foundation. Another reason was it would, the sweat wipes it off, right?
Huh.
So you need something that is anhydrous in nature so that it doesn't get wiped off.
Hmm.
And that was honestly where we got the idea of the Starlet, that if we can create something that's sweat proof, waterproof, and that can act as both as a foundation, like a primer,
Hmm.
on a particular, like a pigmented primer and a sunscreen and to some extent moisturizer with
Hmm.
long term benefits, then we're giving her something that a working woman can really tap into on a daily basis, right? And that's where we got the idea. Then that goes to the R&D team. Then
Hmm.
that goes into formulation. So formulation has two parts: that what ingredients work, the supremacy of the ingredients. Then we formulate it. Then we test it over a period of 3 months with a group of 100, 200 women first. Then we get a near about final version of around 10 to 7 to 10 samples. And that tested across 8,000 women in India, in
Hmm.
different parts of India. And if 90% of them or above end up buying it with us, then we launch the product. And so
Hmm.
we don't even discuss the pricing. See, we do a lot of things counterintuitive. We never go to my R&D team and say ki 400 rupees ka product banana hai, because that would constrain their world,
Hmm.
right? Because we first want a great product.
Hmm.
So we go and tell them that, hey, this is the problem. Can you solve this problem through a great? These are the things that women care about.
Hmm.
And then once the product is made, we realize, okay, this product is so much cost. What can I sell it at, and what cost is she okay buying it? Then we again
Hmm.
talk to users. Then we set the
Hmm.
price of the product. So a lot of times we will see, before a launch, we ask users, what is the price of the product you guys? That's us trying to know what is she
Huh.
okay paying for this kind of
Hmm.
product. And then we launch the product and then we decide marketing. So we take pride in the fact that our marketing is secondary to our product. We let the product first speak for itself.
Hmm.
Marketing for me is not about selling the product. It's about making you aware, like, a product like this exists with these kind of qualities. Whether you buy it or not is your call.
Hmm.
I don't want to necessarily push you to come and buy me. But
Hmm.
once you buy it, what I really want is you to keep coming back to me again and again and again. I think that's the process for us.
Process. And it's amazing how involved a customer is in it as
Yeah.
well, right? That's interesting.
Yeah,
Uh,
that makes our journey more complicated and time taking, but I think that's
hmm.
really the richness of the journey for us.
Yeah, yeah. And plus, I think it has such a huge value, right? So, I mean, while it complicates things a lot, it's also balancing it with all
Yeah.
its benefits. Uh,
Mhm.
and I know, like, how you were initially talking, right? Like, as a consumer myself, it's very easy to switch between products, right? Like, if I try something doesn't work the first time, I'll just shelf it almost.
Mhm.
So, how do you kind of overcome this challenge, right? Like, how do you ensure that your customers stick by you? Like, do you have any retention tactics or techniques that you're able to?
Great product, great product, great product. I think if you solve the right problem
Hmm.
and if you find the right solution, I don't mean today everyone uses every product of mine
Hmm.
and they will find it. Any product of mine will solve problem for 70% of the population.
Hmm.
And I say 70%, sometimes it's more made for oily skin, sometimes it's more made for dry skin, sometimes for combo skin, etc. Right? So I think the only answer is great product. Nitya.
Hmm.
Retention is not, people talk about retention marketing, but to me that's such a farce, if I may say,
Hmm.
because I'm just like, if you are paying for the user to come back, then really there's no point. So it's really product.
Grounded in the product
Yeah.
itself, the power of the product.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, so right. So in addition to product, and of course, you have great content that you put on social media. You also do a little bit of influencer marketing as well, right? So for
Yeah.
you, um, uh, where do you see the value coming from when it comes to influencers, right? So do you think they're very helpful in terms of like building awareness for your products, or do they also help you drive sales and conversion?
I I believe it's a combination more towards one. So see, in a marketing scene, there is awareness, there's
Hmm.
consideration, and there's conversion, which is sales, right?
Yeah.
I think influencers are great for consideration because they're key
Mhm.
opinion leaders, like the KOLs. So if they are able to, they build credibility for your product.
Hmm.
So if you choose the right influencer, like a person who people trust with regards to a specific problem, right?
Hmm.
If I go to acne for a dry skin influencer, it will not work. When I go to acne for an influencer who's very vocal about oily skin, acne issues, and has been working on it, and can through her work demonstrate that her skin has become better because of using ABC product, I think that's what works. So I think influencers are great for building intent, building consideration,
Hmm.
uh, credibility, and
Hmm.
sometimes it does lead to revenue and sometimes it doesn't, but I genuinely don't think brands should look at it as revenue loss, because I think if you
Hmm.
choose the right influencer, they add a lot of brand credibility, product credibility to
Yeah.
them.
Right.
Yeah.
Are there any specific KPIs that you're able to track when it
And
comes
we
to?
track everything. We're a very data heavy company. We'll track CPV, CTR, conversion, ROAS. We track a lot. So we do look at ROAS. It's not that we don't,
Hmm.
that what is the eventual sales, but there are a lot of other metrics also that we look at.
That come into play. Okay. And
Yeah.
I mean, and in general, also there's so many trends. There are so many tech innovations that keep happening, right, in the industry. Like, how do you think you will continue to stay kind of at the top in the
Talk to
industry?
my users. Talk to my users. That's it. I don't look at Google Trends. I don't look at all of those things. I just listen to my users. A journalist once asked me that you are launching retinol now. Retinol was trending last year. I'm like, why people buy retinol? And it's because of this anti-aging concept, right? Like, do you think anti-aging was a problem last year and it's not there this year? It isn't, right? So I really don't buy into trends. I only listen to my users. If it's a problem she cares about, I will solve it.
Hmm.
If she doesn't, I will not solve it, no matter what date Google tells me, what trend charts tell me, and what research reports tell me.
Yeah. I was just about to ask you if there's, I mean, of course, there's no like handbook or a guide that teaches you how to be, a successful startup. Of course, that doesn't exist. We wish
Yeah.
it did exist. And I was going to ask you one rule that you think should be there, for an entrepreneur to succeed in their journey. But I can almost preempt that your answer would be talking to customers. Like, am I right over there?
I think talking to customer, but I also tell you one thing, I think it's mental mindset. I think if
Hmm.
you're an entrepreneur, right, you have to be, I think I don't know how to articulate it. I'm finding the right word for it. I think laser focus on doing right by your customers. So it's the same thing that you're saying, but I think it's not just talking. Everything you do should, whatever you've learned, should get translated. It's your
Hmm.
ethics. What you owe to is your user. If
Hmm.
you're honestly true to her, nothing else matters.
Yeah.
So I think it's not simply do. I hear a lot of people saying that we talk to users now, because it's become a fancy thing to say, very honestly,
Hmm.
but how does it translate it into actions? I think that's very critical. So I think the mindset that you stay true to users, I think, is very, very critical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna change gears a little bit in the last section of the podcast. So I want to understand you as a founder now. So, like we were discussing some time back about how it's very common to see a lot of skeptics, right? Like people who will tell you ki MBA kar lena, if you fail, it's okay, you can go back to studies, things like that. So as a first time founder, like how did you keep going? Like how did you deal with such negative Nellies?
I didn't deal with it. I am very I don't I I don't think you should listen to praise or criticism a lot. Uh, when I say a lot, I actually listen to criticism. There's a Hindi में saying करो सब सुनो सबकी करो मन की. I am very that. I listen to everyone,
Hmm.
and when I listen to them, they will be convinced that I am going to do what they're asking me to do, because
Hmm.
I'm very polite that way. But I सुनो सबकी है करो मन की. I think all you need is that's what I'm saying. If your conscience is clear and you have the mental strength to see it through, uh, don't expect to get success on day zero. Don't work towards things. See, if I was, I've never worked towards fame. I've never worked towards, even when I started, maybe wealth creation would have been or ABCD. Honestly, from the day I started, 2.5 years, 3 years down, I've never thought of money. I've never thought of wealth.
Mm.
Each day matters, right? I go back home, no matter how good or bad it is. I've had a lot of bad days. I've had a lot of good days. I can't tell you one day when I'm like, okay, this is it. I've done it. Because what I nahi hai, right? And because I feel like I used to say that when I hit 1 crore a month, I will be like very happy. The moment I hit 1 crore, by the time I was already thinking 3 crores a month. The moment I hit that, I was already thinking 10 crores a month, right?
Mm.
The moment I hit 10 crores a month, I was already thinking 20 crores a month. So this journey is a adrenaline rush. Nothing like, what is that final goalpost, right? And I don't even know if there's a final goalpost. Maybe
Yeah.
it's legacy creation, right? That's the honest true goalpost, and we will all reach different parts of that goalpost. So I think uh, I don't listen, yeah. I don't listen. I genuinely am very and I've had it. I used to care. IB and VC have this thing where they train you to be really. I think all of us are these alpha adrenaline first, alpha competitive people who get into IP and yeah. And unfortunately, we are trained to seek validation. It's the unfortunate truth of the industry, which I tell my bosses now, ex bosses, and you guys train your analysts to seek your validation, right? Reviews and who likes whom, which partner likes whom.
Mm.
Uh, and I think because of that, I had a phase where I had a lot of confidence issues.
Mm.
And I think entrepreneurship honestly has taught me this, that confidence is only within you. You cannot entrepreneurship the first year in R&D. I had like my team was in Chennai and I was yay. I would have taken honestly that was the best 6 months of my life because I found myself. I found confidence.
Mm.
Once you become a CEO, who is coming and telling you good job, bad job? No one's doing that.
Yeah.
So the only thing that tells you good job is your own conscious, is your own
Mm.
truth. And when you start seeking your own truth, right, your confidence you find in that truth.
Yeah.
So my confidence is linked to the fact that am I doing things where my conscious is clear. Till my conscious is clear, I am very confident. I will go and follow whatever I have to do. And so I have actually worked myself in the other direction where I don't noises I don't listen to.
Mm. You just block it out. You're kind of.
हाँ, वो effort भी नहीं मारना पड़ता है यार. Now to
Yeah.
that, 2-3 weeks back, I'll tell you, someone called me and said, this other founder, and we've suddenly scaled up quite a bit, and this
Mm.
other founder told this about you and this about you. And I started laughing, and I was like, oh, very nice. That means I've become big enough for that person to
For
say
them to care.
yeah. And she's like, why are you reacting like this? Aren't you angry? I'm like, no, that means, like if someone's talking about me and this
Mm.
person is a fairly big CEO anyway, I'm like, and it clearly is factually incorrect, which means that there's this general frustration. That means I'm
Mm.
something right? Because I
Yeah.
am a competitor in the industry.
Yeah.
And so it was quite so अब ना बहुत हंसी like the perspective change, and I think entrepreneurship does that to you. And if it doesn't, then I don't think we're living the right experience. It's a very spiritual experience. I can't tell you. And when I say spiritual, I don't mean God. It evolves you as a human.
Yeah.
Who you are is driven by what you think you are.
Mm.
And do you think you are on the right path or not? Do you think you are doing right by your value system or not? And I think that's what it is.
Yeah. And I mean, I read this, I think, in one of your articles as well, where you said you also changed in the way that I think, like being polite, being soft spoken was you, and then you kind of changed into this little like fiery founder. So has that changed completely happened, and like what even sparked it in you?
Uh, uh, so it has happened. So if you ask, if you ask any of my college friends or even my parents for that matter, I was an extremely soft. Even my previous job, IBVC, I'm an extremely soft-spoken, polite. I used to never raise my voice. Like, I didn't know the concept of raising a voice. Like, jata hi nahi tha beyond a certain decibel for me, right? So extremely calm, composed, soft-spoken. I think I'm still calm, fairly calm and composed. I wouldn't say I'm not. But soft spoken. So there is this thing. I used to always run away from being called a women analyst and a women VC, women banking. But I was like, I'm not a diversity hire. Like,
Mm.
it was not that I was hired because I was a woman and they needed a woman. It's because, I was the
You're
best,
competent. Yeah.
yeah, amongst the 5 people being interviewed at the time, right? But anyways, when I got into entrepreneurship, when you are soft spoken, people don't realize it, and I still face it with so many people. uh, when you are when people soft spoken women, India still, and I don't know outside India. I'm not trying to put it in India as a country. I don't know outside India if it's true or not, because I'm not experienced entrepreneurship outside India. Men are subconsciously patriarchal, and maybe it's true for women also, right, that we might be subconsciously patriarchal. But so when they talk to you, it is, they know that they are talking to a woman versus a man. First is that. And when you're soft spoken, it's taken as a stance of weakness. It's taken as a stance. So when I started, and when I started hiring, I raised money for my first round. People used to still think that I'm doing it as a hobby, because skincare women hobby. Then is it a hobby for her, or is it a business, right? Because skincare and women, right? Like, you
Yeah.
think it's a hobby. And so it comes from a point of, it's seen as a weakness. It's not seen as, you're not, trust me, women are not entering a room and considered the smartest in the room. They have to earn that right to be called the smartest in the room. How many people will you go in, and now women are regarded as leaders? How many women are regarded as intelligent? uh, how many women are regarded as great intellects? How many women are regarded as great business women? They are created. Leadership is, I think, is a place where we have somehow found some space, because
Yeah.
thanks to a lot of great women leaders. But
Hmm.
I think intelligence, business is still not something. Numbers is not what you think, and you think women, right?
Hmm.
So I think me being soft spoken on top of that, and having a softer personality, I think it led to a lot. I'll tell you one conversation I was having with this vendor, and this guy keeps going around me. Like, I was saying something which is true, like, you are costing us this much extra, which was very simple maths. For 1 hour, he kept going, telling me in a way as if, and he thought I would be convinced, because he was just trying to fool me.
Hmm.
And I just, after 1 hour, and I was very conscious, I raised my voice and said, "You really need to stop fooling me," because this, and my voice changed, my body language changed, and he immediately, in a fraction of a second, goes like, "Okay, I'm sorry. You're right." After 1 hour, and the only difference was I raised my voice. And I can tell you multiple such instances where if I enter a meeting like ऐसे करके ना, body language, and talk like हाँ बोलिए, versus if I go like, "Hey, hi, how are you?"
Hmm.
There's a huge difference in the starting point of that conversation. And so yeah, I have become less patient. I think I have become more vocal about my opinions, and I have become more. First, I was the person who never used to express my opinion so much where there's no need. Uh, I never used to call out people as much. I was like, it's not my business, and I was never put in situations, very honestly, so much. I think now, and I'm an honest person. I can't argue with you just basis some random stuff. I will call you out if I have to call you out if it's a problem, right?
Hmm.
And so yeah, I have gone from this soft spoken, polite, relatively indifferent, like, okay, you do you, I do me. Even now, I'm you do you, my do me, unless you get into foxtails business and try to hamper us in any way, right? So so I do have a now have a very, like, yeah, and I still have these issues. Yeah, there's a vendor of mine, and I'll tell it to you. Like, I know this will be online, but he literally sent me a message saying that you are a great girl, and I'm like, how many people will you text who will text you are a great boy? And
Zero. That would actually be zero.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm like, you're a great boy. Like, you said you're a great girl, and I'm like, kid. And then he said, oh, something kid, and I just didn't respond to him. Right, and this happened yesterday, and I was showing it to a couple of people in my team.
Hmm.
And my team reacted, what the like, because my team is like, who talks to like this? But
Yeah.
he's a 45-year-old guy, and he's like quite. He's also running his own startup and everything, and we work with him on something.
Hmm.
So I think it's a problem. Patriarchy is a problem. That today patriarchy might not be that मेरे को पर्दे पे रहना है and मेरे को पढ़ने को I don't get to study, but patriarchy is so deeply rooted in our minds that it subconsciously comes out. And I have faced it. I continue to do it, and I think the only way for me to combat it is have a alpha personality, and that's the only way I've found out of it. And that's made me less patient to. That's also another consequence. I'm less patient to bullshit. I will call people out sooner, especially if they are on the trailing these lines, sensitive lines, and all of that stuff. But yeah, I am more aggressive. I'm more aggressive in my tone if I have to be than I ever been.
Hmm.
And I think I recognize people more. I think I recognize patriarchy a lot better,
Yeah.
stuff like that. But yeah, there is a side. Of course, there's a balance. Earlier, my husband used to be like, "Don't get this aggression home," and I'm like, "If you don't do anything, I'll not get it home." I think even at home, but it's translated. Yeah, like we. That's why I'm saying women also have patriarchy. Like when I got married, I was this woman who was doing everything. I would work, so I didn't go. I would. It's not that I'm cooking, but I'm managing my staffs and everything. I've started to express that I can't do this. Can you please take care of it? Right? I was starting to say that, I really tonight just need to be by myself and read my book. And, can you just take care of the boys, like my dogs and everything? So I think, and I was never that. I would never put myself above anything else, right? But I think that also happens. You start to express or calling someone out, like you really can't see it, right?
Yeah.
Uh, uh, so I think all of those aspects does happen, right? Changes, but you balance that. Aggression doesn't mean that I'm constantly getting angry, but I do know that when people need me to raise my voice, and then I can talk to someone in
Hmm.
my normal tone. I do know the difference now most of the
Yeah.
times.
It's
Yeah.
amazing how entrepreneurship can change you as a person itself, right? Like it's amazing. I mean, I remember like a quick anecdote, even when I was interning, I think a couple years back, and I had a person on my team who was, I mean, senior, of course, in the hierarchy and senior in age as well. And he would almost always refer to me as beta or like kid. And I get it. I was of course like far younger, but I just feel like it's not professional, right? Like you're in this setup where there are other guys my age or slightly older than me. And to them, they were like colleagues,
Yeah.
and I was like a bacha. So that was sadly very inherent. And
Yeah.
hopefully, like you said, like I think now we started vocalizing how we feel, what we expect. And the
Yeah.
more we do that, I think things can
Yeah,
hopefully
I hope
change
so. Yeah, I
for the
hope so.
better.
I think calling people out, because a lot of times it's subconscious, it's not intentional, right? So the moment you tell them this is what's happening and they recognize it, right? The
Hmm.
moment you're like, oh yeah, this is what it
Hmm.
is. So a
Yeah.
lot of times people also come around it. So I don't want to put it that people are bad and men are bad. I don't try to, I'm not, but patriarchy is very deep. I think patriarchy was very deeply rooted in me also in ways which is less than maybe someone else's, my mother's, or less than my grandmother's, something, but it's still deeply rooted. And
Yeah.
I don't think it's another generation. I think it'll take 2, 3 generations to clean it out fully, like
Yeah.
it.
I think as long as we realize it, recognize it, and then are willing to kind of just like eliminate it as much as we
Yeah.
can, I think
Mm.
that's the way
Yeah.
to
And
go.
I think the onus is not only on men, it's also on women.
Okay, I want to talk about something that I've been waiting to talk to you about, which
Yeah.
is that you've made it on the Forbes 30 under 30 list. So
Yeah.
first, I want to, of course, I congratulate you on that. And I want to ask you, like, how do you feel about it? Like when it first came out and you got the first email, like what was that first feeling, first emotion?
So I got a call from a senior, the guy who heads Forbes, and he told me that you won it, and he told all of these nice things to me that you're very young and this and that. So I think in the moment, because I didn't know I'm nominated also, very honestly. So my
Oh,
team had filed the nomination.
huh.
वो 2-3 महीने पहले होता है. There's some essay questions that you have to
Hmm.
fill. So at that time I had filled it with them. And but वो ना they send it. So a lot of times when they need anything from me, they will mail it to me. I will write it down here. So there are a lot of all of these things that happen. Like even yesterday they sent me something from economic times. There's some questions and I filled those answers and I send it. But इतना नहीं था कि वो it was a Forbes 30 under 30 nomination or anything, right? And these are answers I write in my free time, right? Because it's not core to my business, so I'll not do it 10 to 7. I'll do it later sometime. So I did remember. So I suddenly got a call. I remember, and that day I had a meeting near my house. So I went to my house for lunch, and then I got a call, and I all these nice things, and I was like very excited, and I was like, oh, very nice, because I also heard all of these nice things. And then I called my husband, and he said, oh, nice, and then he goes like in this very tone, see, these are all just lights on the road, which will blind you from what's ahead of you. So you
Hmm.
just have to switch it off and keep your eyes on what it is. And your only prize is your P&L of the business, your consumers, and really if the products are doing well or not. And I think that was it. Yeah, Nitya, we never even celebrated it, to be very honest. My team did. My team did a very nice celebration for it. But uh, how does it feel? It's I feel honored. It's not that I don't. I feel humbled. I had at some point when I was 17, 18, not 17, when I was gone into banking, I was like, acha, banking kar liya. I'm earning this. Like career wise, I'm more or less okay in the path. So maybe it will nice to be Forbes 30. I joked about it, and for it to come true in some other way, was nice. But I think the biggest, what it talks about is Foxtail, I think the reason I've got it is not because I was in a VC or IB. The reason I've got it is because today Foxtail is a brand that there's some, not everyone in India, not the 1.6 million, but some people, whoever it is, right? Some million people resonate with. It's a brand that scaled faster. It's a brand that makes good products, great products. So I think, and I, as the CEO and the founder of the company, I get to be the reason. I get to take responsibilities of things that don't go wrong, right? But I also am on the receiving end of the glamour and all the good things that happen.
Yeah.
So I think it's just that. So I think it's very honestly, God's grace and touch wood, everything the team's done. Speaks very highly that in a year and a half or
A
of
short span
yeah,
of time. Yeah.
yeah. So I think that's it. But yeah, nothing. Something that I'm honored. Something that speaks volume of Foxtail's success. Uh, but yeah, but I don't think there is. I don't try to make more of it. Yeah.
You take it as yet another uh, good milestone added to your thing, but you're not.
Yeah, my success would be every year someone from Foxtail is in Forbes 30 and 30. So I've told my 2 3 years every year there should be someone from Foxtail, Forbes
That
30.
is such a sweet, that's such a sweet dream to have. That's so nice.
But yeah, no, but it's good for Foxtail. I think it's all Foxtail and it's the team behind it that really has done this.
Definitely. I mean, that actually brings me to my final question. I want to hear more about things that you're proud of at Foxtail and any other launches or campaigns that you think we should be a little excited about.
I am very proud of my team. Like I think like products I've spoken a lot about. I've spoken about consumers, but the reality of everything is the people who are making it true, whether it's great products, whether it's good marketing, good community, being true to the consumers, is just team. I can't tell you, like, I'm so proud of my team. Extremely proud. I think I'm one of the best teams in the country, if not globally. And I think their sense of loyalty, sense of ownership, and sense of execution is just outstanding. So I think it's the team. Launches, there are a lot I'm very excited about. uh, I will tell you, there is one. We are the first one to launch it. We are creating a. I don't know if you see my face. My face has a certain. I'm wearing it right now. Actually, it's basically a highlighter in the form of a cream.
I was
So
going to say I could see a glow for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a highlighter in the form of moisturizer. So it has a 72-hour hydration capacity, but it has a 8-hour long highlighter effect. It's an outstanding product. And it's for women again who are working and going out and I don't know how to use a highlighter and put it here and there, but this product really does it for you. And it picks places where it has to outshine. So it will not outshine here and all of that stuff. So it blends and does that to you beautifully. So I think that's one product I'm super excited about.
Oh,
But
now
we
I
have
as well.
coming, we have an outstanding body care range coming out. So a lot of things happening, but this is something I'm super excited about.
Amazing, amazing. This one I'm going to be on the lookout for as well.
I'm gonna pay you when we are out on that.
Amazing, amazing. Okay, congrats again on everything, literally everything you've achieved till date, and of course, with the amazing team that's working on this behind the scenes as well.
Thanks.
Thank you, Romita. I've had such a great time on the conversation, and there's so much that I got to learn as well. So thanks again.